Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink with another STAMPtember 2020 video using the latest limited edition exclusive set, this one with my favorite things. This is the Purrfect Friends set. And as always, couldn't use just one image, I had to use them all. So I am lining up all these little cat images in the set onto some distressed watercolor paper onto the smooth side using my mini MISTI and just kind of adjusting everything so I can fit them all onto this piece here. And then once I've got them all lined up, close the lid of my MISTI, and then I used my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to ink up these stamps with Fallen Leaves VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. I've been mixing it up a little bit more lately. Generally, if it's a VersaFine Clair ink, I'm using the black, which is Nocturne. And then I did a video recently where I used Morning Mist, which was a gray. And then when I was looking at this set, I was like, ooh, like, let's go with browns. I don't know, I was in a very, like, neutral mood. So it's another one of those things where it's subtle. But it just, for me, it mixes it up a bit. So inked up the images with that ink, and because it is a slower drying ink, I can heat emboss with it. So this is never a necessary step. I say this every time, but it's true. You don't have to do this, but I like heat embossing when I plan on doing any watercoloring because it just saves me so much time and effort. I don't have to worry so much about like letting areas dry and things bleeding into each other and all that stuff. And another favorite of mine is to use my Wow Clear Matte Dull embossing powder. So I get the benefits of the heat embossing. I got the raised edges, but it's a dull finish, not that shiny finish from standard embossing powder. And again, it's just one of those things where it's just kind of a personal preference. I jump all over the place. Just depends on my mood. But today, again, I just wanted that like dull finish, but I wanted heat embossing. And with the lines in brown, it's just a little more subtle than black. That's it. So I did all that. And then for my watercoloring, I'm using my Prima Complexions palette because I was like, it's perfect. Like it's meant for skin tones technically, but it's several different shades of like beiges and browns and whatnot. And I was like, that's perfect for all these little kitty cat images. So that's what I used. Other than I did pull out the gray pan from my Prima Classics palette. There is a black in this Complexions palette, like black, and you can like water it down and thin it out to get a lighter shade, but why bother if you've already got a gray? So that's what I did. Pulled that out, and then I just kind of went along and used, other than the gray that I ended up mixing with a bit of a brown to get more of a neutral or a warmer gray. Other than that, all the other colors I pretty much used straight from the palette. I didn't do any fancy mixing or anything like that. And I just painted all these different cats in all different sorts of color combinations and whatnot. That's kind of the fun thing about images like this. You can kind of do what you want, or you can color them to look like your own pets or your friends' pets or, you know, whoever you're giving the card to. Since I'm using all the images, I just went wild and did all sorts of like random colors. So after I was finished painting in all these images, there's like a pinky shade in this set, and that's what I used to paint in all their little ears and noses. And then I cut out all of these images. You can get the set, just the stamp set, or you can get the combo set with the stamps and the coordinating wafer dies. I'll have links to both. Again, they're limited edition, and so far this STAMPtember, things have been selling out insanely fast. Yeah. Anyway, I set all my images aside. I pulled out the English brick. I think that's what it's called. I have my little pile here. The English brick wall stencil from MFT. This is one of my favorites. I like how small the bricks are. They're just perfect for card making. So I have some Nina Desert Storm cardstock, and I die cut it with the large stitched rectangle wafer die from MFT's Slimline starter die set. And then I taped this stencil into place and had to shift it over, of course, because this piece of cardstock is like 8 1/4 inches or something like that. And then I did some very simple easy blending with Distress Oxide ink in Gathered Twigs and kept it really light. I didn't want like a really dark stencil design. I just kind of kept it light and then left it as is. And then when I was done with that, I pulled out some dark chocolate cardstock, and I'm going to stamp a couple sentiments from that Purrfect Friends set with clear embossing ink. So again, anti-static powder tool, stamp the sentiments with that clear embossing ink, and then these I'm going to heat emboss with detail white embossing powder. So sprinkle out on top of the sentiments, and then I'm going to melt that with my heat tool, and then I quickly trim those out with my paper trimmer. Once these are all trimmed out, I applied thin 3D foam squares to the back of one of the sentiments and almost all of these little cats. Just kind of trimmed down some of the foam squares here and there. Peeled off the backing, so of course they're like sticking to my hands and all that. But it just made it easier to have all of that in place because I had already sort of laid out how I wanted my little card front. And I have a little white rectangle here, and I die cut that with one of Simon's new nested Slimline nested rectangles wafer dies. So I lined up the one sentiment, and then I've got 3 of the cats like sitting on it, because of course. And then adhered another couple. I was actually going to use all the cats on the front of the card, but then I changed my mind because I was like, ooh, I want to save one for the inside, just to finish it off. So I popped those ones into place, and then I'm going to adhere that to the background that I had stenciled with that English brick wall stencil. So that I'm just going to adhere with some craft tacky glue. And then my card base is just heavyweight white cardstock that I had cut to 7 inches by 8.5, scored at 3.5. So this is a 3.5 inch by 8.5 inch slimline card. And adhered that card front to the card base. And then on the inside of the card, I'm just going to adhere the second sentiment and the remaining little cat sitting on top of the sentiment, of course. And then as a final little bit, there's a little solid paw print stamp in the set, and there's an outline one too, but I took the solid paw print, and I'm going to stamp that all along the inside of this card, you know, because again, that is just what cats do, especially if they can find something that's dusty or whatever, you know, cat litter, all that stuff, so they can leave paw prints all over the house, your furniture, your vehicle, whatever. So I'm going to ink this up with that Gathered Twigs Distress Oxide ink and just stamp a little like trail of paw prints along the inside of the card. And then once I did the inside of the card, I also pulled out a Slimline envelope. This is the like brown paper bag Slimline envelope from Simon. And I decided to stamp another trail of these paw prints all along it'll be the bottom basically of the envelope. And these will not fade, but as these dry, they kind of dry back a bit into this envelope, but the paw prints are still like nicely defined, but not too busy as it were. Yet at the same time, you can do some pretty crazy mail art and things will still get mailed and still show up. So anyway, that's a whole other side thing. I also did the back of the envelope because I thought it would be cute. Because again, paw prints everywhere. That's just what they do. So stamp that all across there. And then as a final embellishment, I remembered I had got these coffee bean heart sprinkles from Trinity Stamps. And again, the shade of brown and everything was just kind of perfect with these. So I kind of placed these all around my little card front as my embellishments, since as anyone who knows me, I didn't do any like sparkle or bling or splatter. I was going to do splatter. I honestly considered it. But instead I decided I would adhere these little heart sprinkles because they're just kind of cute. So it keeps everything just with that whole neutral palette I was going with. So I adhered these into place with little dabs of craft tacky glue, and that finished off this card and envelope. So I will have links below the video to my blog post. I'll have a link to the blog post, a supply list with links to everything that I use, so you can check that out below if you are interested. Thank you guys so much for watching, for subscribing, thumbs upping, commenting, all of it. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!